Anyway, in talking about the pelvic floor, we know that the body is wrapped in fascia. We know that individual muscle fibers are wrapped in fascia. Those are made into bundles and wrapped in fascia. The arteries and the nerves are all wrapped in fascia. The organs are double bagged in fascia. We know that the fascia is the biological glue that holds us together. It's the glue that actually gives us our shape. And we all have a different shape. We all have a different pattern that has been part of our life. And that shows up in how we move and such. But what I want to do is just bring your awareness into this place in your body and have you just put your felt sense there and move from there. I know, sounds so easy, but it's not as easy as it sounds. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you this morning. I've also been just spending some time reading about the breath, so I want to bring us to that as well. So as you take your seat this morning, you're welcome to close your eyes, and you'll notice the support beneath you. How your sit bones connect to the support beneath you. How the skin of your pelvis or the back of the leg meets the support beneath you. And you might even notice a difference on the right side compared to the left side, how your body meets that support. Lengthen your spine from there. And you begin to deepen your breath. So I'll also remind you of the bony landmarks of your pelvis. The bony landmarks of your pelvic floor. Your two pubic bones, the inner pubic bone, the inner sit bones, and the tailbone and part of the sacrum. Those would be, if we were to define some of the bony landmarks. The center of the pelvic floor, the perineum, or the perineum, whatever you want to call it, the space between, vagina and anus, that's the perineum. That would be the center of the pelvic floor. Now, drop your attention back into your breathing. Drop into your Ujjayi breath. Make the breath smooth. And balance the inhale with your exhale. On average, your body pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood each day. That delivery of oxygenated blood to your body, and also it takes waste away from places to be expelled by your body. And your breath, the thoracic pump, the inhale, which brings a pressure differential, so that on your inhale, blood goes to the heart. And on your exhale, it goes back into your body and lungs. And typically, people use about 10% of their breath capacity. Maybe this is a reason we have so much high blood pressure, so many circulatory issues. We're typically not breathing deeply. So the time that you're taking right now to balance your inhale and exhale, to make your breath smooth, the full length of the inhale and the exhale, is nourishing your system in many, many ways. So drop your attention into the movement of your diaphragm, this horizontal muscle in the body that is connected to the inside of all the lower rib cage. The inhale, see if you feel how the ribs move, how the diaphragm spreads the ribs out wide on the inhale. And on the exhale, see if you can get this sense of a lifting of the diaphragm, a doming of the diaphragm. It comes up to the bottom of the lungs and the bottom of your heart. And you might also drop to the pelvic floor and see if you can get a sense of the movement of the pelvic floor in response to your breath. At the bottom of your next exhale, let go of any control on your breath. Join your hands in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. Just honoring your efforts to be present within your body, to notice the subtleties happening, and really honoring these things happening all the time. And knowing and feeling empowered that you have the ability to connect to yourself, to your breathing, anytime. And we'll open the practice chanting the sound of Om and singing Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. In that spirit of may all beings in all realms find peace and joy. Take a deep inhale. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. And then with your exhale, you can bow your head to your heart. Release your hands. Lift your gaze. Good to see all of you. Okay, let's see. Oh, there's always some little detail on this. Okay, so to start our practice, we're gonna come up to standing. We're gonna come to standing. So we've been working a lot on connecting into the pelvis, how it connects to the lower body. Right now, we're just going to do a little work with the breath. Let's step our feet a little wider apart and just begin to let the arms swing. You can bring the breath in and out through the nose to begin. Letting the arms swing around. They'll strike your body wherever they do. It just depends on the length of your arms, the length of your torso, all these factors that are individual to each of us. Deep breathing though. So we're going to take this, we're going to move it into the quick exhale out the mouth and the pushing of the hands. So when you're ready, you take a deep inhale through the nose. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you slowly let the body come back to center. Meanwhile, you're just noticing your heart rate. Okay, the limbs of the body, great. Let's step the feet back together and inhale, lift both your arms. Exhale your hands back in front of your heart. Again, inhale, lift both arms. And exhale, hands in front of the heart. Okay, release both arms, step your feet wide apart. We're gonna go to your left first. So you're gonna turn your left foot out and your right foot in. We're headed to warrior 2. the territory that I'm going to invite you to place your felt sense in is going to be on the back leg to begin. So from the perineum of the pelvis to your inner right sit bone, inner right tailbone sacrum, and you're going to lengthen up to the center of your pelvis, not the center of the perineum, the center of the pelvis. Let's inhale the arms out. And exhale, warrior two. Deep breathing. Can you bring in your Ujjayi breath? Can the Ujjayi be smooth? Are you still reaching from that space between the inner right sit bone, inner right tailbone, the perineum, and from the space, that whole interior space, you're reaching up towards the center of the pelvis. Where is that? Then we'll turn the palms skyward. Inhale, lift your arms, straighten the front leg, relax both arms, second side. Now you're going center of the pelvis. I don't know where that is, Lynn. The center of the pelvis is going to be where the pelvis first flares. The bones come and they flare, and then there's the whole cylinder. And right between this flare of those two bones and the cylinder is, we're calling the center. Okay, so let's inhale, lift up again, second side. Here you go. As you exhale into warrior two, from the inner left sit bone, tailbone, perineum, lengthen up towards the center of your pelvis. And if we've been practicing this now for a while, you might also go from that center of the pelvis to the inner left pubic bone and the inner left sit bone to see what happens there. Deep breathing, balanced breath. Sometimes I notice that my efforts kind of flicker a little, and I'll feel it in my back leg. I'll get a little saggy and I'll start to set a little bit of that reach, a little of that strength. All right, arms back up, feet parallel. Release the hands to the hips. If you know you need blocks to bow forward, bring your blocks around. We're going to take a wide-legged forward fold. Lifting up through the top of the breastbone. Let's exhale and bow forward. Hands will come down to your blocks. Let's walk our hands out to downward dog arms. They can be either on your blocks or on the ground, but can you make the legs straight, knees straight? So we know on and on, Lynn's always talking about reaching from the outside of the shoulder blades to the upper arms to the hands. So that's always happening. And you might add another piece, and this piece is going to be from the core of your pelvis. What happens when you reach into that space between that back root of both legs, which is between the sit bone, tailbone, perineum? What happens when you lengthen from the core of the pelvis back? Do you feel that as you reach from the arm bones forward, when you reach from the core of the pelvis back, what happens to the spine? And then go ahead and walk your hands back And then let's shift them up to your hips. And inhale, come back up to standing. We're gonna step the feet back together. Inhale, lift both your arms. And exhale, your hands back in front of your heart. Release both hands. Take mountain pose for a moment. Deep breathing. We're just noticing like that deep breath, like you were doing when you were sitting at the beginning of class. You were in a seated meditation, and now here you are standing. All right, we'll let that go. We're going to take triangle pose. So you might want a block or two. We'll go to your left first. We'll turn your left foot out, right foot in, block at the outer ankle, shin, and of course, you are welcome to ask questions anytime. Here we go. Inhale, lift both arms. Both legs are going to be straight. As you exhale, right, the perineum of the pelvis starts pointing towards the back foot. And we're bringing the front hand down. Let's go to the front leg first and draw from the outer left hip, that outer left greater trochanter, the skin. From the skin, draw in towards the bone and all the way to the center of your pelvis. This might change how you feel the weight landing in your front foot. Keeping that on the back leg. If you lengthen from that back root of the pelvis, we could call it, the tailbone, sit bone, perineum, all the way up to the core. Maybe adding the arm. How do I do these things at the same time? And then there's my breathing, which is really most important. Can you feel the inner line of the front leg? And then your next inhale, come up. And we'll switch to the second side. So maybe I need my block. I know I can start it at any height and change that. With the inhale, arms out. And the exhale, I'm going to draw the outer right skin to the flesh, to the bone, to the pelvis. And on the back leg, I'm going to reach from that back root all the way to the center of my pelvis. And for those of you that have been visiting the center of the pelvis for a while now and practicing, what happens when you reach from that center of the pelvis all the way to the inner left pubic bone, inner left sit bone, perineum, that space on the back leg. Inhale, come up. Exhale, step the feet together. So we're going to take Padangusthasana. Some of you are going to want a strap for this. So you'll want probably a loop in your strap. The size of your loop is going to depend on the length of your hamstrings. Let me tilt the camera down so you can see my feet better maybe. So if my hamstrings, I want to have my legs straight for this. So I might take my strap and put it around my big toes. And I'll make my strap as long as I need to in order to have my legs straight and I'm lifting through my spine. Sideways view, if that helps. Knees are straight. If my hamstrings let me, I'm gonna, if they let me, I'll just grab my big toes. But for a lot of us, the hamstrings aren't long enough. So whichever, what I wanna do is I'm gonna lift through the top of my breastbone. I'm gonna lengthen from that space at the back root of both. So from the inner sit bone, tailbone, perineum, that space in between, I'm gonna lengthen toward the center of my pelvis. Deep breathing, can you use your Ujjayi breath? If your neck allows you, the gaze is lifted. Deep breathing, deeply breathing. I know this is challenging. Make sure you give yourself enough strap if you need it. Keep going, inhaling deeply. And then with the next exhale, go ahead and bow forward. Let go of your strap. Shift your hands up onto your hips. And inhale, come back up to standing. We'll move that. I'm going to put my strap off to one side. And we're going to step to the top of the mat and get ready to go to Warrior One. Do you have questions? Just hit your space bar or unmute yourself and ask if you want to. All right then, off we go, Warrior One. Let's step the right foot back. So we're gonna step the right foot back. Make sure you've got enough length, and that when you step back, you step straight back. So that the pelvis is pointing straight ahead. Usually what I find is that I don't step back far enough. Let's inhale, lift the arms up alongside your ears. And as you exhale, and you bring your left shin forward, you're going to reach from the right root to the core, from the right tailbone, inner sit bone, perineum, to the center of the pelvis. And from the center of the pelvis back down to the right inner pubic bone, the right inner sit bone. And then we'll inhale, straighten the front leg, and exhale, step forward. And left foot back. So left foot is a slight turn out. When I step back, did I step straight back? These are the things I ask myself. Is my pelvis pointing straight ahead? When you're ready, inhale, lift your arms. And exhale to Warrior One as you reach from that left back root of the pelvis, which we're calling the space between perineum, left sit bone, left tailbone, up to the center. And then we'll inhale. Take the arms wide, straighten the front leg. Exhale, step forward. Mountain pose. Let's have your blocks available at the top of your mat, and we're going to move through sun salutation. All right. We'll start in a simple form. We'll keep progressing. Let's inhale, lift both arms, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, plank pose. Your next exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, cobra. From the back root to the core of the pelvis. Exhale, lower. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, downward facing dog or puppy. Deep breathing. So are you still practicing that balanced Ujjayi breath? Downward dog or puppy pose is probably an easier place to really connect because it's a moment of resting in that pose with all the strength that's present, but it's still a resting place, a place to recalibrate your connection to your breathing. Taking another deep inhale, and with your next exhale, step your awkward foot forward, Uttanasana. That word coming out right. There you are in your forward fold. Let's inhale all the way up. And exhale your hands back in front of your heart. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, halfway. Exhale, right foot back. So I'm going to start to reach from the right root, that right root of the pelvis, which we said is the area between perineum, right tailbone, and right inner sit bone. The space between those three landmarks. I'm going to start to reach up to the core of my pelvis, and I find my hands already become more easier to lift into an upright lunge. And then we'll inhale the arms wide and exhale to plank. Inhale and plank pose. Exhale, can you come forward to the toes? Inhale deeply, exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Inhale, all fours. And exhale, downward dog or puppy pose. Another deep inhale, and with your next exhale, right foot forward. So now on the back leg, and you drop your felt sense into this space that is bordered by the perineum, the left sit bone, and the left tailbone area. And can you begin to reach from there up towards the center of your pelvis as you transition upright? And then you'll inhale your arms out. Exhale, bow. Inhale, step forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, bow. Inhale, rise. And exhale, hands back in front of the heart. And then release your arms. We're going to take one more. And in this version, can we have a blanket to put the back knee on? So I'm just going to grab my blanket, fold it to have some padding. So it'll be there, step in front of it. And hands in front of the heart. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Your exhale, Uttanasana. Your inhale, halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. And your exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, pick up the right leg. Come up on the ball of the left foot and exhale, right foot forward. Pull the blocks in. Reaching from the left back root to the core. Inhale, upright. Your inhale, arms out. Exhale, bow forward. We'll lower the back knee down to the blanket. And I like to relax the top of my foot as well. So I'm checking, is your right knee going forward of the right ankle? Can you begin to lengthen from the left back root that's bordered by perineum, inner left sit bone, inner left tailbone, sacrum, up to the core of the pelvis. You might take the blocks tall. And from the core of the pelvis, I'm also going to reach toward that space on the left. That is the inner left pubic bone, inner left sit bone. So I have two directions going there. All right, and then we'll exhale, release. I'm going to shift my blocks forward, step back, downward facing dog or puppy, the resting place. In your resting place, downward dog or puppy pose. I'm not sure, Lynn Rear, but your hands maybe could be closer together on your blocks. You might shift them a little closer toward each other. Yeah, you can still use the blocks though. Not a problem at all. Okay. And then when you're ready, let's inhale and lift the left leg. And exhale, left foot forward. And that's great. Lisa, you're doing great. And you can always do those at the wall as well. You could do, okay? So we've got our hands maybe on blocks or our hands on the ground. We're in a low lunge, right? We've got the back knee lifted. And can you start to reach from the back right root, which is bordered by the inner right tailbone, inner right sit bone, perineum, up to the core. Start to transition to your upright lunge. That's it. Good. And reaching up. Deep breathing. Deep breathing. And then you're going to exhale the arms out. Gracefully lower yourself and bring the back knee down. It finds the blanket. The left knee as you do this, the left knee is a little forward of the left ankle. And so to start with that back knee down, can you reach from on the back leg? Again, that back root from the inner sit bone, tailbone, perineum up to the center of the pelvis. You might find your torso just feels a natural lift. Can you keep that on? Can you keep that turned on? This is going to link up towards the psoas. It is. The psoas keeps going up the front of the spine. Even as you begin also at the same time to go from the core of the pelvis down to the front right of the right pubic bone, the right inner sit bone. That's that territory of the right front root, we could call it. How do I go up from the back and down through the front all at the same time? And Nancy Lynn, you're always going to want to know how am I supporting the front of my spine? Do I have the tone I need in the psoas or between the inner hip joint and the inner pubic bone? And then we'll exhale, let's release. And take downward dog or puppy. Can you use the pose that you've chosen right now to be a resting pose with all the strength that you're putting there? So that you're able to reconnect to the Ujjayi breathing. To bring cohesion to the body, to soothe the nervous system, and to keep the mind from going into a whole, story. And then go ahead and lower both knees and walk the hands back. So I'd like us to set up for Supta Virasana, Ardha Supta Virasana, so half Supta Virasana. So we've been doing this. I really want to encourage us to continue to opening the front of the hips. So how do I do this if it's okay for me to do? I'm gonna tilt this down so I can make sure you can see me and how I support myself here. Okay, so if you have a bolster, you can use your bolster. It's quite handy. I think most of you do not, so I'll show it without. But if I have a bolster, I might still go 2 blocks end to end. And I might put my bolster right on top of that. So that would be, that's pretty tall. Some of you might not need that much height. If I don't have a bolster, I'm gonna start using my blankets. So I'll take a blanket, I'll fold it in half lengthwise. And some of you already know what your setup is. 2 blankets might be enough. I like to have a pillow. So you can use another blanket as a pillow or a pillow as a pillow. How about that? And I'm gonna put that at the top. That's gonna go under my head. Let's see, and Anne reminded me last week, you could have this second block. If end to end isn't enough for you, you could always have that second block at a little higher and then begin to stack on that. So that's good. If we have the head and chest a little higher, it helps us. It gives more slack to the front of the thigh. So if this is my setup, I'm going to take one leg in Virasana. If taking your leg in Virasana isn't great for you, you have a couple options. One option is going to be just to have that leg be straight on the ground and one foot on the floor. So I'm going to take my right foot to the ground, right foot on the ground, my left leg back. And if you don't have it on, you're already in the pose, that's okay. The support meets me right at the top of my pelvis. If this doesn't work for you, you might just have a straight leg. Or you might be doing the low lunge with the back knee down. That's a good one. Or maybe you have a low lunge with the back foot up higher, so it's up on the wall or the door like we sometimes do. So whichever one you've chosen, what happens on the down leg side when you go from the center of the pelvis and you reach toward that front root space of the down leg, that inner pubic bone, inner sit bone, perineum. You're reaching towards that. Do you feel the pelvis lift when you do that? Dropping back to Ujjayi, breathing.
Lynn, could you say where the buttocks are landing and what's hitting the support first?
Yeah, so the place I'm hitting the support is really at my low back, top of my pelvis, low back. My butt is not supported at all. But when I reach from the center of my pelvis, the inside, to that front left pubic bone, left sit bone, Katie, on this is you, because that's your left leg back, my pelvis begins to lift. When I engage and reach, the pelvis begins to pick up. Do you feel that? Like that, right? There. The pelvis begins to lift. And I feel more opening at the front of the hip joint on that side. The down knee, if you're in the Virasana, the down knee is grounded. It's not floating. And the knee is a little towards midline. And I'm not sure, Evelyn, because I can't really tell from the camera, but you might just make sure your right knee is toward midline, your down knee. Yeah. That looks good, Jackie. That looks great. So I check in with myself. Am I still reaching from the center of my pelvis to the inner pubic bone, inner sit bone perineum on the down leg side? And then we can go ahead and switch to the second side. And again, I can be in a low lunge with the back knee down and do the same work. Or I could, you know, and if it's too hard on my knees, or I could have a straight leg. So I don't want any pain in the knee when I do this. If I'm having discomfort in the knee, then it'd be wise action for me to choose a different pose. Or, and one way you might get, you know, alleviate some of that discomfort in the knee is oftentimes making your support higher or putting some space behind the knee, or going to that whole idea about inner knee, outer knee. But here you are on your second side. And you're going to reach from the center of the pelvis on the down leg towards that inner pubic bone, sit bone, perineum. That when you reach there, the pelvis begins to lift up away from gravity. You know, and the Swiss balls are great for this support too. You know, they offer the ability to be more upright. If the tops of the thighs are really tight, the Swiss balls are great for this. And I keep this reach happening at the same time that I'm working with my breathing. We'll take one more full breath while you're there. And then releasing from that, coming out of that pose. Let's turn around and face your stack. And you could take either downward facing dog or child's pose. Child's pose, you know, you can just pull your stack in closely. Or some of you might be happy with downward facing dog with a little support at the hairline for the head. Alrighty, if you're in downward dog, you can walk towards your support. If you're in child's pose, come out of that. And we're all gonna come up to standing. I'm gonna move my stack out of the way. I'm gonna take my blocks and make them tall at the top of my mat. And some of you will want your strap if you want to take this option. So we're going to take this option of half moon, and some of you might enjoy grabbing the foot in half moon, and sometimes you need a strap for that. Or some of you might be happy just going to half moon. Here's the option. The option is going to be, I'm going to encourage you to go from Tadasana. So if, for example, I was going to go from my standing on my left leg for Tadasana right now, as I come down, before I lower, I'm going to bring that outer greater trochanter of the standing leg. I'm going to bring from the skin, the flesh, the bone to the core of the pelvis. So the standing leg is steady. And then I'm coming down, and I might bend my back knee if it works for me, and I could have a strap either over this foot, or maybe I can grab my ankle, and I'm going to start to reach that same place from the core of the pelvis to the inner pubic bone, inner sit bone. Whoa, 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 whoa. Or maybe some of you might just be happy with half moon. Okay, so wherever you are, I'll coach you or watch you. If you're starting in Tadasana, you're gonna, and if you're already down, it's okay, but I can talk to you from Tadasana. Let's go to if we go to our right leg first, let's do right leg first. And on the right side, just step the left foot back slightly. So you've just got the left toes behind you on the ground. They're helping you right now. And from the right greater trochanter, the outer right hip from the skin to the bone to the core of the pelvis, draw to midline. Pull all the way into the center. Pick up your back leg and begin to lower yourself. Great. That is great. These are getting better, yeah? You know, this gets better with practice. And then you still have your standing leg toned, and you've got to keep that on board the whole time. The standing leg is straight. There's no bend in the knee. Then you could either stay with half moon, you know, left hand to the hip or left hand up. Some of you might enjoy bending the back knee and reaching back to grab onto the ankle. But this is because you just opened the front of the hip. So from the core of the pelvis, you're able to reach into that inner pubic bone, sit bone, perineum. And if you're in half moon, you're just practicing your half moon, reach all the way out the lifted leg, all the way out the ball of the foot. Actively reach. And then we'll take your time. You could go back to Tadasana from that by just making a slight bend in the knee and coming all the way up. This gets so much better with practice. So if you just are like, oh my God, I can't, this is just crazy. Don't worry, you'll get so much better at it. But it does challenge you in a way that's, I think, helpful. Ready for the second side? So now you're gonna stand on your left leg or the other leg, whatever you did. So you step the one foot back just slightly, go from the skin through all the flesh to the bone of the outer hip to the core of the pelvis, and then pick up the back leg to lower yourself down. You can start to, once you keep drawing that outer hip in, you'll find the pelvis will naturally stack to whatever it can do for you. And you might just be happy with a half moon. Otherwise, you might bend the knee, grab a strap or the ankle, and begin to reach from the core to the inner pubic bone, inner sit bone. Back to half moon. And then I'm going to bend my front knee some. and start to bring myself back up to Tadasana. Good. Oh, that's great. All right. Okay, so now I want to go to, did someone have a question? No, okay. I want to do a supported shoulder stand, and I'm going to show you another version. It's a little different than the version we've been doing, but you can still do any of those versions you know. In this one, I might set it up so that I'm kind of close to a wall if I need the wall or a piece of furniture. And let's see, I'm going to take my 2 blocks. If I have a bolster, I'll put that on top of my 2 blocks. I have to make sure you can see my setup here. You do 2 blocks. If I have a bolster, I'll put it on top of those 2 blocks. If I don't, well, that settles that, right? Then I'm going to go to, I'm going to want some blankets here. So I'll go 1 blanket, 2 blankets. I might even use 3 blankets. And if I have another blanket, which I of course do, that's going to go under my shoulders. This is my pelvis. This is my shoulders, my head. So how do I get into this? The way I'm going to get into this is I'm going to take my pelvis kind of away on the other side of this big stack so that I can take my feet to my piece of furniture or wall, my shoulders to this blanket, and my arms will often, especially with the bolster, they'll fit under, and I could take my legs up the wall here. I could just have bent knees on a piece of furniture. I could, and I'll show you sometime later this week, a way on a slippery floor to push away from the wall to come into another version. But we'll settle for that, something like this. So there's no weight on my neck. My shoulders are on my blanket. If I had a bolster, I'd probably even have 2 blocks, a bolster, and 2 blankets or something. I make my pelvis quite high. And then whatever your pose you're in, can you begin to, if you've got the legs up on something, you can lift the back of the head and lower the pelvis down. Whatever, you're going to bring yourself out of that just for a moment of resting before we take a twist. Then let's roll over to one side. Use your arms to push yourself up. And you could either sit on, one of your blankets or two of your blankets. We'll take Marichyasana 3, straightening the right leg, left foot on the ground. And when you're ready, you'll take your left hand behind you and twist all the way around towards the left. Reaching from that right root of the tailbone, sit bone, perineum, up to the center of the pelvis. Keeping the torso turned to the left. You might turn the gaze back to the right, toward the right big toe. So we're just getting the spine moving. We'll exhale the center and take the second side. Right hand behind, left outer hand, the inner elbow, or the outer elbow, any of those. Reaching from that left back root all the way up to the core. And you might add the gaze back to the left, the opposite of where the thoracic spine is turning. All right, and we'll exhale, come back to center, and take Shavasana. Bring yourself into any comfortable resting position. And now you can allow your breath to deepen. It's beginning to awaken your body to movement. Make a mindful transition over to one side. And use the support of your hands as you come back up to sitting. Join your hands in front of your heart. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions or anything, you're welcome to ask them. I'm going to stop the recording.